Oh, hey there. It's just practicing my singing voice. You know, similar to how you project your voice when you're singing, you can also project your data when doing Mongo queries. So, I'll spare you from having to listen to any more of my singing. Let's get into the code. Okay, I want to first look at the docs here and then give a quick demo of what I'm talking about. So I just googled this Mongo find, and probably the thing you'll want to look at here is this db collection.find. So this is a find method in the different drivers if using Python or Node.js or some other language. This is the find command. And you'll see here, the first thing most people know is the query, the object where you specify which documents you want returned from this find operation. But the second one, this one, I'm still surprised how many people don't know about this. And the reason actually why I decided to make this video was because even I forgot about this after a few months away from Mongo. But the projection parameter is super useful, and you can see here, specifies the fields to return that match the query filter. Okay, pretty straightforward. The syntax is a little bit weird. So you can either use one or true for the fields that you want to include. You can use 0 or false for the fields that you want to exclude. And then down here they talk about this, that the projection cannot contain both include and exclude specifications. And there's one exception to this, is that the ID field you can explicitly exclude even when you're using include specification. So I have this one open also, just to show you that it's also here in the syntax for the Mongo driver as well. So if you're using this from the command line. Okay. So, now enough talking about this theoretical reading docs. Let's look at an actual example, okay? So here I have just a local DB, you can see it's localhost, Mongo running, and I'm looking at this message threads collection, right? So there's only 2 documents in here. Each document is supposed to represent kind of a conversation, right? So there's listing for, think of like Craigslist or a Facebook ad or something, someone's selling something, and there's date created, the person who created it, the responder, and then you have some messages here, right? This is kind of just a contrived example. You know, you'd probably want to use object ID for things like this and other things, but this is basically just to help illustrate the projection parameter for find, okay? So there's also this messages document that's kind of just an array of more objects, and each object this is kind of like a chat, you know, it was saving a chat. This person says, hello, what's up? The next person says, I don't know, wah. But, okay, so let's say we want to get everything, right? That's this first query parameter, and then we have the projection parameter. So if I just do empty object, it's going to return all the documents with all the fields. If I say messages 0, then it returns all of these fields without the messages property, okay? If I say messages 1, then it should return only the messages. And you can see, kind of interesting, that when you say messages 1, it still returns the ID. So let's say maybe, and say for example you have one page with a list of all the conversations, and on that page you just want to show maybe listing creator and conversation ID. And so we don't need that massive object of messages here. This is kind of the confusing thing that I was saying before, that when you're specifying these as include, you can still say, and you actually have to explicitly say not to include the ID if you don't want that. Okay? But for example, if we did this, then, right, gives us, and actually it's a pretty nice error, it's telling us that it cannot have a mix of inclusion and exclusion, okay? And remember from the docs, true also works here. So these could be 1 or true, and this could be false. So kind of just up to you. I normally prefer to use 1 and 0 just because it's a few, fewer characters. But yeah, Mongo find projections, right? And so the key with these is that you don't always need this entire object, right? And when you pull this entire object and just throw away half the data, it's kind of a waste, And adding things in here to this projection query, it's pretty easy. You don't have to install any libraries or really drastically change things. It is kind of similar in a way to GraphQL, where you can just pull subsets of the document. GraphQL kind of allows the consumer to specify whatever they want. It's a little bit dangerous to have your API consumers able to just send arbitrary projection documents. So maybe GraphQL is a little bit more flexible there, used from front to back, but this is definitely a useful feature of the Mongo Find API. It's great for when you only need a subset of the document. You can find the entire collection of documents with just a subset in each document. So that's pretty cool. And it can also be just an optimization thing, when there's smaller amount of data coming through the wire, then your API, your queries will likely be faster, right? They'll likely be sending a smaller payload, and depending on how much usage your database is getting, that could be significant amount of dollars that you're saving, significant amount of time that your users are saving. So it's definitely a useful thing to be aware of and to take advantage of. It works with Cosmos DB and many other Mongo API supporting databases. So definitely check it out. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and happy querying.